Slashing is like that, you know?
Mm-hmm. And there's a penalty for that?
Yeah. You do that, you go to the box, you know, 2 minutes by yourself, and you feel shame, you know, and then you get free.
This is CBJ in 30.
Anything you folks want to know about the fascinating world of pro hockey, here we go.
Tweet your questions by using the hashtag CBJIN30.
We'd like to remind you folks, keep your questions within the boundaries of good taste.
Here's your host, Bob McGilligan.
Oh, and a happy Tuesday to you as we get set for another edition of CBJ in 30, taking your questions through Twitter. And all you have to do is tweet that question or your comment or whatever it is you want to say, however you want to do it. You can just use the hashtag CBJ in 30, CBJIN30. It's as simple as that. Rob Mixer, my trusty screener, once again here today. He'll go through your questions. He'll throw some of them my way, and we'll go through them over the course of the next 30 minutes. Before we get to your questions, what about playoff hockey again last night? Well, I told you I thought that the Bruins and Canadiens series would go 7 games. And indeed, not only will it go 7 games, but could it have been a more convincing win by the Montreal Canadiens last night? 4-0 over the Bruins, whereas many of the Bruins looked like they had nothing in that game last night. The play of the game, though, the save by David Desharnais when he dove behind Carey Price and scooped the puck right off the goal line, you know, the big highlight play of that game. And I was thinking, I couldn't help but think that, remember earlier in the year when the Blue Jackets went to Montreal and the mayor of Montreal was calling for David Desharnais to be sent back to the American Hockey League? He wanted him sent to Hamilton, Ontario. Remember that? Just another example of how politicians should maintain their own business and do their own job, because some of them have a hard enough time doing that, let alone being the general manager for a hockey team. So that was a great play last night. That was, at the end, a lot of shenanigans in that game last evening. And, Zdeno Chara taking a little bit of a beating today from the Boston media for not playing hard enough in that game. And then he got a nice little whack there at the end of the game, did he not, in the last couple of seconds? And something that's looked to become commonplace now, that's the way you just retaliate against guys. Even if they stand 2 feet taller than you just take your stick, you put it between their feet, and you lift it. That's all right. That's good. That's okay. I learned a long time ago as a kid that that's not the way to fight your battles, necessarily. Not necessarily. And then, they say an eye for an eye. Well, let's not go any further than that. Game 7 in that series should be interesting. I think Boston will win it. They'll be playing at home. They'll be more energized than they were last night. I think they'll win it and they'll go on. But one thing's for certain now, in the Eastern Conference, 2 Game 7s, there's not going to be a rested team going into the Eastern Conference Final. And that Game 7 between Pittsburgh and the New York Rangers will be played tonight. Anaheim Ducks back in the driver's seat. They've won 3 straight now as they beat the Kings last night 4-3. Is there a better story right now than John Gibson and the way he's playing for the Anaheim Ducks in goal and some of the saves that he is making? You notice, too, that the Kings are trying to beat him glove side. They're shooting high glove on him a lot. Here's a memo to the Los Angeles Kings. You might want to go blocker because this guy's not giving up much to that glove side at all. He's just too young to know better. He just comes in and plays his game. Oh, by the way, he does have a couple of gold medals. Knows how to play. He's faced the best of the best in international competition. So for him, this is, another day at the office, apparently. That's the way he makes it look, and that's really, really impressive. But, what a turnaround. And, I know it was partially a mental turnaround for the Ducks. I mentioned yesterday you played differently in front of different goaltenders, no matter what anybody says. But this kid, he's holding up his end of the bargain for sure. Now, the only problem for the Ducks is they've got the LA Kings on the ropes where they've been before. They were down 3-0 to the San Jose Sharks, and they're still playing. The Sharks have been golfing for 2 weeks. So that's all you need to know about the Kings and their resilience. I don't think they're going to go quietly. I certainly don't think they're going to go quietly at home, and wouldn't be surprised if that series is pushed to the limit before all is said and done. Minnesota Wild trying to push their series to the limit with the Chicago Blackhawks. Man, I so much want to say that doesn't happen. I so much want to say that Chicago just finishes it, but the Wild have played so well at home in this series. I'm just, I don't know. What's that, Rob? They're due for a stinker at home, says Rob Mixer. In other words, they'll win at home, and there'll be a Game 7. They could have a stinker at home. That's the one where I know they played really well in those 2 home games, and I know I just said that, but that is the one team that I could see dropping the ball at home and just not finishing. And I could actually see Pittsburgh not getting it done tonight on home ice too. I really can. And I'll tell you why. Because they don't have a good history in Game 7s and in Game 7s at home. And on top of all of that, now all of the pressure in the world is resting on their shoulders. They had a 3-1 lead. They could have closed this thing out in 5 games. It could have been over, and they let the Rangers back in, and then they let them back in again, and now it's winner take all. And I don't care where you're playing that game. For the Pittsburgh Penguins, there's a ton of pressure on them tonight. And nothing has changed from what I talked about when the Blue Jackets were playing the Penguins in the first round. Meaning, if they lose tonight, there are some sizable changes coming to that organization in the summer. Some big-time changes are going to come. And I'm not even going to tell you that I agree with those changes, but what I am going to tell you is the pressure is mounting so greatly to make those changes that I don't know that you're going to be left with much of a choice if you're Ray Shero. And I'm assuming that he will still have choices. Could it go beyond that? I don't know. I don't think it goes beyond Ray Shero. I still think he stays as the general manager of that team. But I think anybody lower than the GM position who's not named Sidney Crosby or Evgeny Malkin, I think everybody that doesn't fit those parameters will be looking over their shoulder because something big could happen there. And it might not take long for it to happen if the Penguins don't win tonight. If they do win tonight, all will be forgiven. If they take on the Boston Bruins, it'll be, well, here's a chance to atone for last year, which, by way of atone, I guess if they won one game, they would do better than last year. But that'll be the way that it's spun and the way it's looked at. But that is a huge game for the Penguins tonight. That one, to me, has upset written all over it. That has the New York Rangers have a golden opportunity to walk back into the Consol Energy Center, take that game, and take that series tonight. I truly believe that because I don't know the Penguins are strong enough to finish it out. What's that, Rob Mixer? The last time the Penguins lost to Montreal, they couldn't beat Yaroslav Halak. Now they get Henrik Lundqvist. So you're saying that's a better matchup? Oh, you're saying it's not a better matchup. I don't even think it's going to come down to the goaltender in that way. I really don't. I think it's going to – I think here's what it's going to come down to in that game. How hard do the Penguins play? Because they still have not played a hard game. I don't think they still play to this point they've played a hard game. And guess what? The New York Rangers have them frustrated. You see Sidney Crosby in that last game? He was back to like he has been in games that the Philadelphia Flyers beat the Penguins in. Distracted, agitated, discouraged, spending a lot more time talking to the guys wearing stripes after the play's over than worried about the next play. And when you get him in that kind of an atmosphere, then you have them right where you want them. Or so it appears. So it appears. Now, the Penguins could also come out tonight and they could just take it to the Rangers, and all of this would be a moot point. Who knows? But I really think there's going to be a more tentative play by the Penguins tonight. I think they're scared. I think in many ways they're scared. Not of the Rangers being tough and beating them up or anything like that. I think they are more afraid to lose this game than they are confident they'll win it. How's that? That's how I think they are. And I bet you I could call a lot of people I know over in that city today, and they won't want to talk about any hockey whatsoever. And tomorrow, they might want to talk about it even less. We'll see. All right, that's what's on the slate tonight. What's on the slate right now is going to your questions by using the hashtag CBJin30, which T1 Tesla has done. It says bottom six forwards / depth are important to deep playoff runs. How do you see franchises building them successfully? Well, how do you see them building them successfully? Here's a good thing. When you talk about bottom six forwards, you don't have to pay as much as you do top six forwards, right? So you can find guys, people build them in different ways. Sometimes it's draft picks that you know are going to top out as third-line guys. Sometimes you have guys that didn't pan out as high as you thought, but they're still good players, and they wind up in the bottom six. And sometimes you're able to go around and find some fringe players from other franchises that you can get to come and play those bottom six roles. So that's how you develop them. That's where they come from. A lot of young guys get thrown into those bottom six roles when they first get to the NHL. Sometimes that's not fair. I really think, you know, sometimes it's a waste of time. You have a guy that's a top minutes guy in the American Hockey League getting all kind of chances, and he's playing, 30 minutes a game, and then he comes up and he plays 8 minutes a game, and he can't make that adjustment. Sometimes, depending upon the ability of the player, you've got to bring him up and put him in the same type of role that they have in the minor leagues and give them a chance. But, sometimes that's either not feasible or you think that they're going to be able to change their game and excel. So there's many, many, many different ways about it. But again, the thing about it is you can find guys to play those roles. You can go around and pick up a guy for $1 million, $2 million. You're paying those top guys a lot more than those third and fourth line guys. So there's a lot more third and fourth line guys that you can find. Look at Jack Skilly. Jack Skilly was a former number one pick. And on this team, well, I know in the end he was playing with Ryan Johansson and Boone Jenner, but when he was up here during the year, he was playing fourth line. He was playing in the bottom six. That's a guy that when he got drafted by the Chicago Blackhawks was targeted to be not a bottom six player. But it didn't work out that way. So be it. All right, what do we got next? Alex Stanek says, how can the Blue Jackets best capitalize on new fans such as myself that started following the team during the playoff push? Oh, it's an easy one, Alex. Continue to win. I'm going to guess that's what drew your attention. That's what you came around because of. You knew they were here. Maybe you were a casual fan on the outside. Maybe you'd come to a game once in a while. And all of a sudden, they proved to be winners and they proved to be for real. And then you pay more attention, and now you're a little bit more bought in. Maybe you're really bought in. Maybe you love it now. Maybe you just plain love it. So what do? On the ice, you win, and you win more. And off the ice, you take care of people like you who obviously are invested because you're listening to this and you're sending a question. So we'll try to take care of you. That's all I can do. I can answer your questions, and I can give you stellar programming to listen to. On the ice, they got to win. Everybody loves a winner, Alex. Everybody loves it. Welsh says, what can the Blue Jackets do differently for next year to have a good first half of the season? Pay more attention to detail early. Be ready early. Don't think that everything's going to be a given. Here's the funny thing. What my job is during training camp is you ask all the questions about, well, you finished so great. How important will it be to pick up on where you left off? And everybody says the right things. Oh, it's going to be very important. We know that last year was last year and this year is this year and it's different and a lot of time has gone by. I mean, they say all those things, but come on. Where does human nature come into all of this? It's got to come into it somewhere. Because at some point you're thinking, we ended so well, we got everything together, it's all figured out, and we're just going to fall right into it. And then you play preseason games, and you do well, and you win the bulk of those games, and the mindset is, this will be easy. We're going to snap right back into it. It's been months, but we're going to snap right back into where we were in April last year. And then the Calgary Flames come to town for the opener, and then the building is full, and it's going crazy, and then when 60 minutes are done, you lost. Why? Because you made too many mistakes. And then those mistakes start to compound, and then you figure out it's not that easy. It's just showing up and picking up where you left off last year. We said the right things. We tried to do the right things, and it just didn't work. So you take that experience from last year and the year before, and you figure out as a player, the coaches will do that. They'll spend all summer doing this. I think this will be their number one priority starting the season, is to start in the hole and be climbing the ladder all year. It's going to be to get off to a quicker start and try to establish yourself early and then build on that. Not hang on, not build a big lead and then slip. To get off to a good start, have a good foundation with your points, and then try to dictate how it's going to go the rest of the year instead of being dictated to. Okay? So the coaches will do that. They'll spend all summer worried about that and game planning that. But as a player, you've got to go back to and say, all right, what didn't I do? Maybe I wasn't as ready as I thought. Maybe I should have done this differently. Maybe I should have done that differently. So there's an individual aspect of it, and then there's a team aspect of it. And when they go hand in hand, you're going to get off to a better start. This team has to get off to a better start. If it doesn't get off to a better start, I think you're in a situation now where if you start slow in the first month, then this management group is no longer going to sit around and say, well, let's just give it a little bit of time. Now, that's if everybody's healthy, because that was the thing last year. Last year was, Nathan Horton's not in there. Other guys were hurt. Okay, let's wait until we have the entire group before we make a fair assessment. And that turned out to be dead on the right thing to do. That was perfect. But once you've reached a level and you're trying to take it a step to the next level, don't expect people to be as patient. Don't expect them not to look around and say, got to change something. And that could be a coach. That could be a guy going from the first line to the third line. That could be, this is crazy talk. I get this. But it could be a goaltender change. I'm not talking about here. I'm just talking about in general. So there are a lot of things that can be done. And from a management standpoint, they could look and say, okay, we've got to make some kind of a move just to send a message that this is not going to be tolerated. We've got to get better and send a message at the same time. So all of those things now come into play. It's not going to be, okay, we'll give you all the time you need. No, I think that's gone. I think those days are gone, because now you're reaching those levels and you want to excel. You want to move ahead. So you've got to get off to a good start. That is going to be the number one priority. And I am going to do my best not to go into training camp this year and talk about the great finish they had last year and getting into the playoffs and all that jazz. Because guess what? There's going to be enough guys down there asking those questions in training camp. I don't need to be one of them. My focus is going to be, just like theirs is going to be, we don't care what happened 6 months ago. We care about what's happening now and where we're going to go now. Simple as that. Next. J. Roth. Free agency focus is what? Offense or defense? Well, that depends. Again, what is your it depends the decisions that they decide to make as far as who's staying, who's going, and where there are holes, and if they have people to fill them already in place or not. I use this as an example all the time. To me, if Nikita Nikitin doesn't get re-signed, is Dalton Prout ready to step into that role and be your big-bodied defenseman? I think he is. But that also doesn't mean that all of a sudden there's another defenseman on the free agent market that's affordable, who has experience. You might say, well, we think Dalton Prout's ready. We think. We're not 100% sure because he went through that tough stretch right near the end of the season last year. And we know this guy's proven, and we know that this guy is not going to take a lot of money to get signed. So maybe we'll buy a little bit more time for a guy like Dalton by picking up this guy. That could very easily happen. Those kind of things. I don't know that there's a real measured offense or defense. They want to score more goals, for sure. Absolutely. And is more goal scoring going to come through making a trade or picking up another free agent? But again, as I said, I don't know. We talked about this after the show yesterday. A guy like Paul Stastny's making $6 million right now. He is going to be a big-ticket guy to get signed as a free agent. It's going to take a lot of money to sign a guy like that. And if you go in that direction right after you just shelled out a lot of money to sign a guy like Nathan Horton, again, you've got to make sure you spend your money wisely. And I'm not saying it wouldn't be spent wisely on Paul Stastny. I'm just saying, do you go with the big chunk of money on the one guy, or do you take that money and maybe spread it around to a couple of guys and hope to get more offensive production that way? Yeah, that's good. Rob just said, is that Ryan Johansson's money? Which very well could be. Once you pay him, Maybe you don't have the $7-8 million to pay Paul Stastny, but maybe you have $4 million that you pay another guy. Or maybe you pick up a guy in a trade, and that's what his contract is, and you use it like that. So I don't know that, one thing in free agency, I was going to say there's not going to be a goaltender focus. Maybe there could be on a backup goaltender. I don't know. Depends what direction they decide to go there. But, again, these are not to me, this is – I hope that you're happy about the answer, which is all over the board, because there's not a glaring weakness. There's improvements they would like to make. There's improvements they will make. But there's not such a glaring hole where you say, you've got to go get this, and you've got to get it yesterday. So that's a good thing about it. Mike Todd's son, Garrick. Your dad does not have you working at Dairy Queen today? Unbelievable. Hopefully he is. All right, Garrick, here's your question. What are the effects, positive and negative, of Bob and Artie playing the offseason in Russia? You mean in the World Championships right now? Nothing. I don't think it's positive or negative, to be honest with you. If they wanted to play more hockey, they're playing more hockey. They wanted to represent their country again, they're going to represent their country. I'll guarantee you part of that is because of what happened in the Olympics. They stunk it up, not them personally. That team stunk it up in the Olympics. They didn't get done what they wanted to on their own turf. So they wanted to keep playing. Go over there and play. Knock yourself out. Ovechkin's playing over there too for Team Russia. I think part of it is I would be trying to make amends. If I was out of the playoffs and I wasn't playing and I still had a bad taste in my mouth from February and felt like I let down my country, or my country felt like I let them down, maybe that's more accurate, I'd go and play. Play as long as you want to play. It doesn't matter. And somebody out there is thinking, well, what if a guy breaks his leg? Then it matters. No, not really, because it takes 6 weeks to heal and there's nothing going on. So you got the time. But to me, if you want to play, go play. You want to represent your country, you're only going to get limited chances to do that in your life. In your lifetime. Just because you're Russian doesn't mean they're always going to ask you to play on the Russian team. So if they call you and they want you and you have a sense of pride, which every one of these players does, go play. If you're hurting, Fedor Tootin. He might have played, but he was still beaten up from the playoffs, so he didn't go. Okay. So be it. Jamie wants to know, how can we get on Boston-Montreal's level? On the level of that series, other than play faster, what are we missing? They've been incredible. I don't think you're missing much. Blue Jackets are a big team, for the most part. Big team. They get faster. What's the Boston Bruins? They're big. They're fast. They're tough. They're deep. So you're not that far off of all of that, to be completely honest. What do? You take time. You take time to mature as individuals and as a team. And again, if you stay with the same plan and execute the same way, you'll get to that level. I like that question, though, because nobody's ever saying, how do we get to the Washington Capitals level? Because they were out. Nobody wants to go that way. Everybody wants to go the other way. And they're heading in that direction. Corey Rohrbeck says, what would you really do for a Klondike bar? Well, on a day like today when it's 85 and humid, almost anything while still dressed. Next question. TJ Graham says, or is that Gann? I put an R in there. It didn't belong there. How important is it for the younger guys to step up next season? Well, of course it's important. They stepped up this season. They got experience. They have to take that experience, and they have to build upon it just like anybody else. I don't care what age you are. I don't care if it's a veteran guy or if it's a young guy. Doesn't matter to me. Everybody's got to step up. If you're not here to step up, then why are you here? So they're going to have to step up. They have to build on it. What I like about the young guys on this team, and I think I've made this pretty clear, but I'll just say it again, or maybe I'll say it point blank. What I like about the young guys on this team is they want to get better. They know they're going to get better. They don't think their game is even close to being complete. They're hungry. They want more. They want to be better. They want to be the best they possibly can be. And that's why I don't worry about these guys. If somebody said to me, do you think Boone Jenner will, be a lesser player next year? I do not. Not even close. It's not in his makeup. It's not in his mentality. It's not the way he wants to play the game. He's not here just to be here. He's here to be the best he can. And that's what he'll be when it's all said and done. Eric McAllister, now that the NHL knows what the Blue Jackets can do, what preparations can they make in a league that no longer estimates them? What preparations can they make for a league that no longer estimates them? They no longer underestimate them. Well, what does that mean? I mean, everybody's going to be expecting you to be better this year. Nobody's going to look at you like, let's start the backup goalie. You prepare the same way you've always prepared. You don't change your preparation. You just, again, you might get you might get Fleury instead of Zatkov in a regular season game, right? I mean, and guess what? Now that I sit and I say that and I think about it, I absolutely hate that junk. Well, I get the backup goaltender, which means lack of respect. Really? Does it? Because guess what? Sometimes it means the other guy's been overworked and we got to give him a day off. And yes, some teams pick that based upon, well, they feel this is lesser competition. But that's basically saying to the backup goaltender, I don't know how you got into this league, and I hope to God you never step on the ice. But when you have to, we'll play you against the Buffalo Sabres. You know what I mean? It's like they're pros too. They're NHL guys. They are expected to win. And I talked about this the other day. Their job to me is the hardest job in pro sports. Hey, your team plays 82 games. We want you to play 15. We're not going to tell you what games they are until the last second. And we expect you to win. I don't know. It would be great if you won 13 of those 15. Are you serious? I mean, what a job that is. That job stinks. Not really. Get to sit on the bench, wear a ball cap, take it all in, and you're in the National Hockey League. But what I'm saying is, my whole point is here, to me, there's too much put on that. Well, they're starting the backup against us. He is supposed to be able to win as well. Okay? And to bring up that Zatkov example, did he not get a shutout against the Blue Jackets this year? Did he not beat the Blue Jackets this year? 3 times. So again, that's, you make the same preparations. Maybe they play you differently. Maybe they maybe they give you a little bit more respect in matchups. That kind of thing. But nobody, you're right about one thing. Nobody will underestimate them. What, Rob? What? Rob says that the backup goalies, what? The backup goalie is the other team's problem?
No, like
Whether they play or not. What? How much they play?
right. So like if the backup goalie plays against Team X, if it's Columbus, it's not really lack of respect. It's that guy needs to play.
Oh, yes. Rob is saying if the goalie plays against the Blue Jackets, a lot of times it's the other team. The guy needs to play, and so that's where he is. I know, and I understand that, and that's basically what I'm saying as well. But there's this whole culture of thought that if you get the backup goalie, it's like they're disrespecting you. It's a slap in the face that you're getting the backup goalie instead of getting the starter. And sometimes the backup goalie does cartwheels. Well, okay, so here, and let's just put it in this regard. So are the Los Angeles Kings being disrespected right now by the Anaheim Ducks because they called up a 20-year-old from the American Hockey League to put him in net in the Stanley Cup playoffs? Disrespected? If so, Bruce Boudreau will disrespect them all day long. One more? All right. Nick Mazesco says, what do you think the Blue Jackets' first priority this offseason is in terms of re-signings and contract extensions? Ryan Johansson, done. That's it. It's first priority. Buck stops there. And after that's done, then you decide what else you're going to do, where you're going to fill in, how you're going to get better, all of that. But when a guy scores 33 goals during the regular season, when he had his breakout year, when he has more tools than you can teach, and has the potential to be one of the biggest and best centermen in the game within the next couple of years, that's your priority. It starts there. It stops there. Just to take a pause, and then you move on from there. But when you say priority, because you use the word priority, Nick, that's it. That is the priority. All right. Another 30 minutes has come and gone. It is just that simple. Can almost do this show in my sleep. Sometimes I do. Practice it in the middle of the night. Sometimes I get up early, go over this show, how it's going to go, and then your questions come, and everything I prepared is right out the window. Thanks for sending those questions. Appreciate it. Talk to you again tomorrow at 11:30 on CBJ in 30. Bob McElligott saying simply to you, so long.